Reining is a demonstration of a horse's willingness and a horse's athleticism.
To see an animal do what they can do and respond to a rider, it's a thrill for people with horses because they know what it's like to try and get one to do that.
You have the quickness of a barrel horse, you have the slowness of a pleasure horse, and it's very precise. It's like driving a Ferrari. I mean, you can go wide open to just as slow as a horse can lope in 2 strides. The spins are awesome, but the sliding stops are what captured me.
Reining is, well, it's unlike any other horse event.
It's like driving a sports car compared to a Nova.
It takes an extremely versatile horse to do it. Everybody loves to see a horse wide open and slide 30 feet and to walk out there in a pen and turn around wide open and spins and that type of thing. Those are pretty moves. Anybody who rides a horse knows that those are dang sure advanced moves.
It's a great sport because there's a lot of thinking and just getting along with that animal.
Reining comes from the northeastern part of the United States, upper Midwest, where people had cattle-bred horses, but didn't have the same kind of access to cattle that we have down here in Texas. And so these people with cattle-bred horses came up with a way to demonstrate how athletic their horses were without having to have cattle around. And that's where the maneuvers in reining come from.
The reining horse does the maneuvers that a cutting or a cow horse would do, but without the cow anymore. Horses had to be able to stop quick and turn through themselves quick, roll back. You know, they just made it a show.
It all makes a great deal of sense when you have a cow in the pen with you, and you can see where these maneuvers actually come from.
Probably in the early 60s, we went out, we tried to sell memberships in the National Reining Horse for $10. And hell, we couldn't sell them. That was the beginning of the National Reining Horse Association. As of now, I think there are about 17,000 members. My number, mine is 9.
And there was probably a point when there was 5 guys that were consistently in the top 5. Well, nowadays, there's 50 of them. It has grown, and the people that are in it, they've gotten big money behind them. They buy the best horses they can possibly get on. And it's not a cutthroat business, but it's a tough business. They call it reining because when we started, you were way more aggressive with your reins. You were pulling them in the stops and you were pushing them around a lot more. But as the reining has progressively gotten tougher, we're trying to make it look like we're doing all this stuff invisible. They're listening to our legs, they're listening to our voice.
You know, if I had to describe what reining was, I would say it's basically figure skating with the horse. We have to do a specific pattern with specific maneuvers that include spinning and sliding, and they judge us on each maneuver. A couple weeks in advance, you usually know what your pattern's going to be. We have a set of 11 patterns that we run, so you have plenty of time to prepare for that specific pattern. There's just certain things, really small detailed things that you have to really focus on to gain or lose points in your class.
Each maneuver goes from a 0, which is just average, to a +1.5, and they go in half increments. So if it's just a nice stop, a little above average, it's a +0.5. If it's a little bit better, but not what you think is almost perfect, it's a +1. And the one you feel like you can't really get one to do it any better, that's a +1.5. Now on the bottom part, if you run in and stop and it doesn't work as good, it could be a -0.5 or a -1 or a -1.5, depending on how bad a disaster you've had at that point. And that is with each maneuver in the pattern. There's 7 or 8 maneuvers in each pattern, and you get scored on each maneuver from the 0 to +1.5 or -1.5. Now, in between there's penalties If you miss the marker, it's a 2-point penalty. If you drag a lead up to a quarter, it's 1 point. After a quarter of a circle, it's 2 points, and etc.
All the participants in a given class will do the same pattern. They all know what the pattern's going to be well ahead of time, so there's not a tricky aspect to it. It's not as if your pattern is called out to you as you're riding in the gate. You have plenty of time to study your pattern and know what the pattern is. I guess you could say it's a little like figure skating. The different patterns in reining are made up of the same maneuvers, just in different combinations.
My favorite is the sliding stop. When you approach a sliding stop, I don't want to see a horse grabbing extra gears like 3, 6, 9. It has to be a soft, pretty approach. But in the end, before you say whoa to him, I like for him to be running wide open, but they have to get there pretty. When you say whoa, the horse has to drop its hindquarters in the ground and not pick him up. They have to trot with that front end and carry him through that stop. They cannot push your head up or down. They can't lean on you there.
And it's hard sometimes to differentiate between a good stop and a bad stop. For me, it's really important that when a horse runs and slides, they put their hind end in the ground as hard as they can, and they hold their legs in the ground. They don't pick one leg or the other leg up. They don't hit once and then come out and then hit again. It has to be a solid, fluid slide. It's really important that we get past a certain marker. If we don't get past that marker, we incur another penalty.
You want that horse running free to that stop and listening to you and stopping without having to jerk his face. Then they plus you on how pretty your horse stopped or how hard they stopped.
And then there's the rollback. When a horse is at the end of the stop, the rider would ask it to do a 180-degree turn. They lift and roll over their hocks. It has to be just like a horse would work a cow. Or sometimes you'll see a horse and they see something and it spooks them and they jump through themselves. That's a rollback. And then there's the backup. A horse needs to back up soft, quick. The quicker the better. But again, it has to be pretty. The circles, it has to be a smooth departure. A horse has to stay flat and really willing looking, really have a lot of finesse. I want him to accelerate rapidly, maintain that for a circle or two depending on the pattern. But when I take the gas away or tell him to quit running, I want him to melt down into a slow lope, as slow as they can lope.
They want you to slow down like somebody shut the key off on your car. We want it very pretty, very soft.
And there's the lead change, of course. You know, horse lopes here, and then he changes there. The lead change, that has to be front and back end simultaneously. If they're disengaged behind, it's a penalty.
You have to change leads exactly in the center of the arena. A lead change that's not going to get marked as well is one where you see the horse raise up a lot, make a big move when he makes the lead change.
If your lead change is earlier, if your lead change is late, that can count against you. If your horse drags the lead, which means changes in front but not in back. That happened to me today. It was just one step. My mare changed in front and then took a step and then changed in back, and that was a half a point penalty per judge.
The spin on a reining horse is important also, and also a key maneuver that makes you think reining. It's important that they have a good rhythm. They step with a cadence and a rhythm with their front feet, but their hind end can't move around a lot. And the faster and quicker they can do it, the quicker footed they are, the more points they're going to get.
If you overspin your horse, if you pass up the mark where you should stop, then you get a penalty for that. If you underspin, you get a penalty for that.
The thing I look for is a horse's cadence when he takes a step across. There's no hopping, it's just bam, 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 and he never misses a step. Some horses pivot on a hind foot, never pick it up. Some move it in a small area. Either way is correct as long as that front end is correct and they're not swapping ends.
You got to concentrate on your turnarounds. Hopefully stop on the money. You overspin, underspin, you're going to get a half penalty or a 1 point penalty, or go off pattern depending on how bad you've done.
You walk in the pen, you have a score of 70 per judge. Each maneuver either adds to that 70 or takes away from that 70. So in a 5-judge show where the top score is thrown out and the bottom score is thrown out, you walk in the pen with a score of 210. So it's not an overall subjective judgment at the end of the pattern. It's really a matter of looking at the individual maneuvers and grading each one of those as they happen.
And you know, when you start to show a reining horse, a 70, if you make it through the whole pattern with no mistakes, that's excellent. And the more you do this and the higher levels you get to, then you're going to expect more from yourself and you're going to expect more from your horse.
It's a speed event, but you got to make yourself slow down and think about that pattern all the time and think about where you can help your horse through that whole pattern. You know, there's horses that maybe don't circle as good, so you can't go quite as fast. And if you got one that's a big stopper, you run and stop and try and gain all you can gain while you're there.
And the more finesse, the better for me and the judges when you're trying to win some money. Whether you spin the horse or back the horse, take the lead departure, or say whoa. I want the judges and the people in the audience to wonder how I made that horse do that. So I like very subtle cues. I like to pretend I have a little box in front of me and I try to stay inside that box. To me, that's a willfully guided horse and that's what the judges are looking for.
The rider, to a point, is judged in the reining. There is not a mark for it. The prettier the whole picture is, the more points you're probably going to get. So you want to try and be smooth and be in rhythm with your horse and solid. And the smoother you can be, the prettier you can make the entire picture, the more points you're going to get.
The beautiful thing about the reining is it has a place for everyone. So when you show up, you get to participate with people of your experience level. When you go to the horse show, you'll be with other people. They have a spot for you. They have a spot for guys like me where we can't get down there and take the prize away from those people.
That's the great thing about the reining horse industry, is there's a multitude of classes that you can compete in by your age group, by how much you've won or haven't won. We start with a class called the Green is Grass, all the way up to the level 4 open and non-pro divisions. Kids, there's 10 and under short stirrup that they can start in. A lot of classes offer another class within them called the Prime Time. So if you're 50 and over, you can go in that class. There just is a place for everybody.
In the non-pro classes, I think it's more about the rider. In the open classes, the rider has to be of a certain level, and they all are. So in the open classes, oftentimes it's about the horse. With the right horse, any of the top riders could win a major event.
It takes a special kind of horse. It takes a horse with a nice mind, and it takes a horse with a tremendous amount of ability, lots of coordination. It's almost a speed event, but at the same time they have to show some quietness too. Wide circles, wide open as fast as they can run, and suddenly at a certain spot, suddenly low quietly, and then stop, turn around wide open, go back again, run as fast as they can run, and slide and stop, roll back. So those are beautiful moves, and everybody'd like to ride one.
In my class of the reining, I have to have a horse that can +1 almost every maneuver. The really, really good ones, they just want to be good horses. I've always said I'd rather have a little bit of a dumb athlete, because reining is something that's so repetitive that you got to have the athlete that can do all the stuff, but you got to have one that doesn't try to outthink you all the time. So the mind part of a reining horse is very important. I like to see that real broke, feely horse that is just listening to your legs, listening to your hands, listening to your voice. That's the ideal horse for me.
They can run fast, they can go slow, they handle like a Ferrari. To me, there's no better horse to ride. They do their job. They don't look for trouble. Most of those horses that we ride, a 4 or 5-year-old can steer them around. Broke is a good thing in our deal. It's safe for anybody.
A reining horse is among one of the most broke horses I've ever been on. They have to do all these maneuvers with the rider showing little or no help. They have to be like push button controlled. It's a great horse for people to learn how to ride on because they are very in tune to their riders.
Reining is an extremely athletic event for the horses and for the riders. For a horse to be able to compete in reining, a horse needs the best of care, the best nutrition, the best medical care. All the horses that you see at an event like the NRBC or at the Reining Futurity, they're so well cared for. Before you're allowed to go in the show pen, there's a judge in the warm-up pen that checks your bit to make sure that your bit is a legal bit. You're not too severe a bit. They check the horse for any marks that would indicate that the horse was maybe schooled too hard. The care of the horse, the quality of the care, I mean, that's something that's paid very strict attention to. It's always a wonderful feeling to ride a truly gifted horse. In my case, I feel like my horses are always better than I am. And any of the horses that I show can mark a very competitive score if I do the right thing. A show like the Breeders' Classic pays out over $1 million. The winner of this event will win somewhere between $125,000 and $130,000. The reserve champion will win only about $10,000 less than that. That's enough money to bring out the top competitors in the country, in the world really. And horses that can compete at that level are quite valuable.
We raise here at our place about 50 babies a year. Our horses that we raise, we've been very fortunate from Hollywood done it to Gunner. Gunner babies, they just want to get in your pocket, a lot of them. And there's a big share of them babies that just want to be friends. They'll walk up and walk over you sometimes just to say, hey, here I am. It's like having a lap dog. So we get those babies on the ground, and then when they are long yearlings or just turning 2, we will start to ride them. No matter how many you breed, you're not going to breed all great ones. There's some of those that we sell just for riding horses or sell because they're just not going to be good enough for us. And a lot of people will take those and go do well with them, but it's just on different levels than we are. We sell 80% of our yearlings in our legacy sale. People say, why are you selling all those good colts? Well, if we sell them as 2-year-olds, they're going to think we picked through them and are only keeping the ones that we want to keep. And when we sell them as yearlings, and they said, well, God, you might have sold the best one. Well, 2 things. I may go buy it back if I need to, or try to buy it back. And if I can't buy it back, I hope they go win as much as they can possibly win, because it's just helping me, and I'm a proud papa. It's like watching your kids go do things, and if they go do well, it's another feather in your hat. So having all those horses that we have, the more they win, the happier I am. I've always felt that the breeding makes you money, having a stallion. Without Hollywood Dunn, we wouldn't be where we're at today. He was a once-in-a-lifetime animal for us, and we got in at the right time. We paid more money for him than people thought. They thought we were crazy. He was a young horse when we started breeding him. By the time his very first colt crop went to the futurity, there was one that was 3rd in the futurity and others that placed. It was like, we can breathe now, it's gonna work. Breeding him now, it's more of a science. It's not like you turn your stud out and let him breed the mares, and we collect him. We were very fortunate with Dunnett. Now Gunner's, we're very fortunate that he's stepping in. He just turned to be a $3 million sire just last week, so he's doing his job also. So the breeding part of our business has been very good to us. Now we freeze semen. We ship it to Europe, we ship it to Brazil, we ship it to wherever they want it. Over the 25 years that the breeding has really taken effect, our industry level of horse has grown in leaps and bounds to better horses. And now that the Europeans and everybody can get that breeding, it's brought the industry up another level. No question about that.
The amount of preparation, if you were to come to an event like the NRBC and watch a horse in the pen, you're seeing just really the smallest part of what goes into getting a horse ready. You know, I have such respect for the trainers who are so gifted at teaching the horse and getting the horse ready.
I think every trainer in the world has a little different feel that they want that horse to figure out. We ride between 60 and 70 horses a day. We will start them, biggest share of them probably when they turn 2. So they're ridden their whole 2-year-old year. We'll ride them as 2-year-olds 4 or 5 days a week, you know, just depending on the horse. And there's times in there that we'll say, you know, this one's doing fine. Let's just leave him alone for a couple weeks. And you have to feel what your horse will take. I'm not expecting him to do +1 maneuvers. I just want him to do nice, solid maneuvers easily. And then as a 3-year-old, we'll keep training on those. There'll be a few that don't step up to the next level again. We'll ride those 3-year-olds 4 to 5 days a week pretty steadily, but I like to give them their time off too. I like to turn them out, let them just go out in paddocks, eat grass and play, and just let them stay fresh-minded that way. Got to let them be horses too. I'm sure it's like anything when you get done with baseball or football or anything, there's bruises and joints that are sore. You give them horses a couple months off then. As a 4-year-old, they come back and say, phew, I'm ready to go. Let's have a reining in 3 days. Really, from there on, it's a whole nother horse. You don't train on them near as hard. They know their job. For us, is just riding them then and keeping them fit. But at that point in their life, they're saying, hello, I'm ready. They've really made nice horses by then. At McQuay Stables, I've been told it's a little like a reining horse factory. And I guess it is, because I have good riders working under me, and that's what we're doing, is building reining horses. And I want to see them look trained, but I don't want to see them look dominated. Does that make sense? I want to see them trained and say, okay, this is my job, but I'm not afraid to have my ears up and be happy.
You know, we ride these horses for a year and a half before we show them the first time. We ride 5 or 6 days a week, and we just start them at baby steps. Teach them how to turn. You pull on your inside rein, your direct rein. They take a step across, you release and do it over and over again. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication and a good bred horse. Everything we do all day long is to make sure those horses are listening to us. We try to erase anticipation in our maneuvers. The horse has to stay calm and relaxed and not do anything until we ask him to. A horse that anticipates a pattern will get you in trouble. A lot of our training involves a lot of erasing anticipation. Those horses have to listen to us. I don't want a horse to think for himself out there. He has to listen to me. Generally, we ride a horse anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Some days an hour and a half, but if we're riding them that long, you know, we just take our time, and some horses take a little bit more and some take a little bit less. But for me, ideally, I want to be on one less than an hour. If he'll go through there and do his routine right, I'm going to get in and I'm going to get out. If he does good, I quit. And that's just like feeding a horse a carrot. So by the time our fraternity rolls around, those horses have been ridden 5 days a week for 2 years.
So what you see at the end when you show up at the reining event is a culmination of years of horse training, and to learn how to do all these maneuvers and learn how to be a reiner, you have to spend a lot of hours in the saddle. It takes a lot of hours and a lot of horse training, and there's steps to everything. You know, they start out in preschool, and when they're done, they're graduating. So it's 2 years of step by step by step instruction. The people that are doing the horse training part of it, a lot of them are artists in the saddle. It's a natural feel for them. It's what's in their blood and in their bones, and they just have a natural communication for horses.
I tell you, the trainers that ride at the top level and that you see at a competition like the Reining for Surety or the NRBC or the World Equestrian Games are, just truly gifted athletes themselves and really gifted trainers.
I've had a lot of people say, you make it look easy. Well, I like that horse to be doing the maneuvers, and it looks like I'm not hardly doing anything. Again, I got to give the horses credit. We're raising better horses. I had one trainer say, well, I feel like it's a ballerina. That's kind of what you want to feel, because personally, I hate to see it be a horse race. I like to see the horses do it hard and fast, but I love to see them do it with so much finesse that it has people in the stands going, oh man, did you see that? He never wiggled his hand, he didn't do this. That's my ideal kind of reining.
Even at our level, first of all, you need the horse. If you don't have the horse to win, it just isn't going to happen. Without that equine athlete, you're nothing. It takes a whole lot of luck. You just need to put those two together, and that's the fun thing about our sport. You got to get everything to come together on that specific day. It's hard to get that horse's brain right, do all your training right, and get it to come together on show day when the cameras are on and the people are cheering. There was a day when I was happy to mark a 70, but that was a long time ago. I've climbed that ladder, and I've marked some pretty big scores, and there's been still some days recently where I'm just glad I did mark a 70. That's a good thing about the reining. It's very humbling. I can mark a 68 just as good as anybody still. It happens. That's the beautiful thing about our sport. Nobody giggles and laughs, because one day they will too. They'll mark that 68 or that 70 again at a major competition, and that's not a whole lot of fun, but it happens. It's a very humbling experience, our sport of reining.
Every year I learn something new about showing a horse, taking care of a horse, being around a horse, what makes that horse tick. To me, that's a huge part of being a horseman, is learning how to work with that specific horse. You can't make every horse do things the way you want them done. If you can figure out how to make them do it where they're comfortable and still perform well and do it well, to me that makes a great horseman. Every time I walk in the gate at a horse show, I'm nervous, and every time I walk out, I'm thinking of what I could have done better and how I can fix it next time. There is always room for improvement.
It's an extremely advanced form of horsemanship and talent on both horse and rider.
Sometimes it is difficult to see what makes one run better than another run, simply because the better a run is, the less it looks like the rider is doing. One of the first rules in reining is that the horse is to be willingly guided. When you see a horse that knows his job and willingly goes through the pattern, it just looks as if the rider's not doing much. It does have that quality. The first time you see a really good run, you think, well, that looks easy, I could do that. But it takes a long time to be able to do it that well. The better the trainer is, the better the rider is, the easier he makes it look. Watching it at the highest level, in a good way, it can sort of give you a sense of confidence and make you think, well, shoot, I want to do that.
I think it's a great family sport because the whole family can be involved even if you're not a rider.
It's just so much fun to go through a pattern.
The true test of an athlete and a horse trainer for me.
I think it's a great privilege to be able to show horses. The excitement that you can feel in the air. kind of gets your blood pumping.
It's a great sport, no question.
Reining's very fun. People get hooked on it and want to see nice runs. Working with an animal, no matter what you do, I think is great, because you have to get some character to understand that animal. You got to work with them, not against them. So no matter what you do, I think it's a great tool for anybody.
It's just a challenge every time. Gosh, it just gets in your blood. You do it the first time, immediately want to go back in the pen and do it again. Horses help you become a better person. We do use fly predators at our place, and it's just amazing how they work.
The number of flies we have compared now to before we used them, it's a great improvement.
Fly predators, since we've started using them, I think that our flies are down probably 80–90%. And I've had a lot of people come here and be impressed with our fly situation, because we don't have an issue with flies.
It's just another great thing that you can do for your horses to make their life better.